What is up, everybody, and welcome to FLW Videos. Go ahead and check out the amazing background that we have. If you are interested in that, I am going to be tagging it on to the end of the video. But you're not here for that. You're here to talk about Rayquaza and then, of course, the introduction of its shiny form. It was officially announced by Pokemon Go that the shiny variant will be available. But not only that, we are going to get this Pokemon for over a month, which is insane. People are going to go crazy. This is easily one of the more popular raid bosses that you can have. Maybe Mewtwo would be another one that would be comparable. But so many people want Rayquaza, and you may be curious as to whether or not it is worth it to have it powered up, and then of course so much more. I've actually already done a deep dive on this, so this is going to be called the deeper dive. That's where we redo it. You get what I'm saying. We've got some new counters, new Pokemon being introduced, so we do have some raid results changing, and it is very important to stay up to date, hence why we are doing it. We'll be talking about it from a raid perspective, PvP, and then of course so much more should you power it up, and we will talk about all of that in today's episode. Hopefully you are excited about it. If you are, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. Rayquaza with a max AP of 3,835. Rayquaza is a dual type of dragon and flying type. Statistically speaking, this Pokemon is very solid. However, it does hover more towards the attack side with an attack stat of 284, its worst stat being its defense stat at 170, ranked out at 167th. It does have an overall ranking of 32nd in Pokemon Go. Taking a look at the moves, you're going to see quite some flexibility between the dragon and then of course the flying type. Most people tend to use it from the dragon perspective because it has a very good moveset with of course outrage. It has some room for improvement on the flying side with aerial ace. If it had something like sky attack, it would be able to easily perform better, but we will of course be talking about that today. So first things first, from the raid perspective, when you talk about Rayquaza as a dragon type attacker, there's going to be a couple that I think personally stand out in my mind. For example, you're going to have a budget option such as Salamence. The only catch to it is the only way it's able to get close in performance to Rayquaza is of course if you have the Community Day exclusive move Outrage. So in that case, Rayquaza is technically the better performer. However, there is a non-legendary budget option that could be a better way to go, especially if you are not interested in investing rare candies. At the same time though, you have to have access to it via the Community Day moveset. So it's going to be a little bit of a toss-up. But one thing that you can bet on is that Rayquaza is the #1 attacker from the dragon typing. Even when we go through a couple of different scenarios, it just stands to be true. So it is easily worth the investment if you are looking for the absolute best. If you do want to go the budget route, I would highly recommend Salamence instead, and then potentially something like Dragonite. When you get over to the flying type side, there ends up being a little bit more competition for Rayquaza as a whole. And it's mostly due to the other Pokemon's moveset, not necessarily because of Rayquaza's stats. You have a Pokemon like Honchkrow, for example. Because it has access to Sky Attack, that allows it to really propel forward. You also have the recent adjustment to Moltres, where it not only has Sky Attack, but it also has Wing Attack on the front move. And because it has it for that quick move, it's able to get the double stab benefit on it from the flying type. So I do think that Rayquaza has dropped back a little bit from the flying type perspective, pretty much putting it into favor more towards dragon type, and not necessarily considering opening it up from a different perspective. But yes, it is going to be solid from two different typings, so keep that in mind. I would recommend going the dragon route if you are going to go it, especially if you get yourself a shiny variation of it. When we get over to the PvP side, it's not going to be good news when you're talking about it from the Great League, and then of course from the Ultra League. But the way that its stats work, it's not necessarily the worst from a Masters League perspective, but that's going to be the only time that it will be good. That's when you could maybe consider using something like Ancient Power, for example, just because it is considered to be a pretty good PvP move. You're not going to get the stab benefit off of it though, so as far as this Pokemon is concerned, I think it was destined to be way more successful from the raid perspective as opposed to PvP. Most of the Pokemon that we cover are raid related, but every once in a while you'll get a really good one, but you pretty much know which one it's going to be better at. For example, Armored Mewtwo was destined to be better at PvP than it was for a raid boss. But to be honest, the good news does not stop there. There's going to be a lot of future value for Rayquaza as well in the form of a Mega Evolution. This Pokemon looks insane. I could not wait for this to end up showing up in Pokemon Go, of course with the accurate CPs that you have on the screen. Once we ended up applying that 9% nerf, I think that there is a lot of future value in Rayquaza. Is it worth powering up? If you have the resources for it, including the Stardust and including access to candy, like you can get out there and raid a ton of them, build up some candy that way, yes, absolutely worth it. If you don't have those types of resources, I would highly recommend you to look the budget route, maybe something like a Salamence or potentially even a Dragonite. But anyways, that just about wraps up the video in relation to Rayquaza. I want to know what you think about it in the comment section below. Are you excited about Rayquaza? I know I am. We've seen it come back multiple times, just crossing our fingers for the shiny variation, and it is finally here. But anyways, as promised, I said I would go ahead and showcase the process for everything done with the wall. So we're actually going to go ahead and end on that, and then we'll just transition into the cutscene. More recently, there has been so much news coming out in Pokemon Go recently that I've constantly been uploading something day after day after day to get the relevant content out. Yet something outside of that seems to be virtually impossible to upload, so I have this piece of content that I wanted to just tag on to the end of the video. We're going to be updating the set. If you're interested in that, we're going to be upgrading everything in the background. I end up getting some foam picked up for it. I also have some FLW video signs, and then really the final piece of just flair that will be added in is the 100K plaque whenever I get that sent in from YouTube. So definitely excited about that. Hopefully you do enjoy this. Definitely thought it would be fun to kind of talk about some different things and then of course build it. So before we actually get started with doing the whole procedure, we really need to make sure that we have a good plan. So really what I'm thinking about doing is to do some type of rotation between them where we'll end up doing 3, coincidentally enough. This space is 3 foot wide and we've got a bunch of 1x1, so 3 will fit across. And so whenever we go through with it, the next row will just be like a rotation of the previous one and, just work it up like that. I think that's gonna end up looking really good. But when we talk about how to actually stick it to it, what I'm thinking about doing that has worked the best, tried out a couple of different things, was mostly just using command strips that are meant to be for pictures. Even though they only hold like a pound or 2 pounds, they end up holding this up very well. So that is definitely going to be the plan. Also, something else that I wanted to show you that I thought was interesting. If anyone in the comment section below knows what this is, let me know, because to be honest, I'm really not seeing why you would have this type of rail going along an entire apartment wall. I mean, you can't hang pictures from it or anything like that unless you get really creative with it. But what I've decided to do is to actually put up a green screen. I just got a curtain rod and then sat it on the top of it, and it holds it really well. So now I can just move the green screen over very easily. So that is going to be amazing for sure. But now that we've covered that, we've of course got a plan. Let's go ahead and get into putting on the foam on the wall. All right, guys, I am not going to lie. I think this looks so good. This actually turned out to be a very easy thing to do. I was a little worried about it. I did have one issue where I had a couple of them getting off center a little bit, but I just went ahead and just bit my tongue, redid it. And once I redid it, it looks like it just lined up so great. So now that we have a wall like this done, I mean, we really just need to do kind of the finishing touches. Oh man, it's so cool. Yeah, your boy's gonna fix that. Maybe no one's gonna even notice it way down there. But your boy's gonna fix that gap. Oh, I'm so excited about this. This is where we give a huge shout out to the patrons on Patreon. As many of you may not know, as far as YouTube content creators are concerned with smaller channels, you don't make that much money, although there is a lot of hard work that goes into it. So support on Patreon is very important to smaller creators, and I want to say thank you so much for everyone who has chosen to be a part of it.